Hi, I'm Mark Mancini from VRBO Outstanding. This week's episode is on short-term rental hacks at my favorite place, Home Depot. While we're talking about locks, a couple of things I want to mention. If you need to get a lock, for instance, to lock up your pool heater or electrical box or anything else like that, get one of these that you can program your own code, set the same code for all of them, so you don't have to worry about keys, you don't have to worry about separate codes for each and every lock. Get the set your own code lock. If Home Depot doesn't have them, I know for a fact I've gotten them multiple times at Amazon. So definitely go there for those as well. Another thing to talk about locks are lock boxes. Many of us have smart locks. You should definitely have a smart lock. But guess what? Smart locks will be dumb locks at the most inopportune times. And a guest needs to get in. So you have to go old school. So you'll get a lock box that you'll affix firmly, whether it be to the side of the house or wood somewhere really robust, but put it in an inconspicuous area and don't even tell the guest that the lock box is there. If they're having a hard time with the keypad and there's an issue, you can just simply let them know what the lockbox code is, just tell them where it is, and they can use the keys to get in and out of the house and have them return the keys when they get back. But always have a spare set of keys in that lockbox because your smart lock will fail when you don't want it to. So the Slage N-code is one of the ones I prefer. Also, the Yale version is good too. The reason why I suggest the Slage and the Yale is because locksmiths can easily rekey these. So if you've got multiple locks for multiple doors throughout your short-term rental, you're going to want them all keyed alike. And you'll only be able to get that done by a locksmith if it's a name brand lock. Now the N-code uses Wi-Fi to connect and change your codes. And you can use something like remote locks, which allows you to go in there, and if you couple that with owner reservations, it'll automate to the last 4 digits of the owner's, or the renter's, I should say, cell phone number. So when they book your reservation and they put their cell phone number in, when it comes time to give out the code, it'll automatically program the lock for his week or her week with the last 4 digits of their phone number. And again, having your locksmith key all of your codes the same, especially if you've got multiple properties, is a smart thing to do because you'll have one key that'll work on all of them. But again, many of us have this on more than one door. You want to use the same key for both doors. So always get that rekeyed, and a Slage will let you do that. Now some of the other ones that are out there, Nest, Lockly, and Eufy is a couple other ones. With these, I'm not such a big fan of. Again, if you look on here, you're going to see that there is no capability for a lock, key lock on here. It's strictly going to be a smart key, so there's no backup on that. Also, again, the Slage name, if you decide to not use the Wi-Fi, whatever, you've got the key, you could always use that as a backup. Again, these are hard to come by right now. There's been a shortage due to supply chain. I bought a couple of these at Menards. They said it was going to be 2 to 3 weeks, ended up being 4 to 6, but I still got them. If you're a short-term rental owner, you probably own a pickup truck like I do. Always make sure you've got some ratchet straps that you keep in your truck at all times. You never know when you're going to stop at a store and buy something spontaneous. I know I've done that before, and you need to strap it down. So always get a good set of straps. Home Depot makes these Husky ones that are very cost effective. I'm not a big fan of the bungee ones. I'm a huge fan of these ratchet straps. They'll hold down a couple thousand pounds worth of weight very easily. Also, I'd suggest getting, and this may not be right here, but Home Depot usually sells the tow straps. Now, if you're in a coastal area and there's hurricanes that happen every once in a while, having a tow strap in your truck is always something good to have. It makes precarious situations salvageable. Again, another thing with your pickup truck, make sure you've got the right balls for your trailer. Some of these will have the optional balls that have different sizes on it. Always make sure that you've got your hitch on your truck because you'll never know when you'll need it. but you'll always know you have it because you'll hit your shin on it every single time. He said balls. Back when I was a teenager, we had jumper cables in our car. Nowadays, this is something, if you have a boat, definitely have this in your boat. If you've got your truck or your car, have this in your car. This simply is a battery pack, and you plug it right onto your battery, and you can jump start with that battery. You can get them at Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon, but those chargers will hold the charge for at least a year. You don't have to charge them very often, but you stick them right up onto the battery, or some of them have them go straight to the cigarette lighter, and you can start a dead battery straight from that. Definitely a good thing to have. And now some of the ones they have actually have USB ports on them, so if you're in a pinch and there's a storm or anything else like that, you've got a way to charge your phone and plug your phone in, so you can always call for help. A must-have for any owner's closet, WD-40, which stands for Water Displacement 40. Another good alternative is Bagster. This stuff is pretty darn intense. If you have a rusted tool or anything rusted, you spray this on, man, it'll start moving. It'll move anything. If this doesn't move it, it can't be moved. One thing I'm sure you already have, but if you don't, you need to get is a wet dry vac. And here's a couple hacks I'm going to share with you. So aside from using the wet dry vac to pick things up, you don't want to pick up in your vacuum cleaners, such as maybe sawdust or sheetrock dust and water and things like that. Suppose you have a kitchen sink that a guest stopped up and the water's just not going down. Aside from using your wet dry to suck up the water in the sink so you can free up the P-trap and work on it, by using the wet dry vacuum and you put it over the drain portion, it'll not only suck up the water, but possibly move anything that's lodged into that P-trap and free it up. So that's one of the hacks you can use if you have a kitchen stop up. So definitely want to get all the water out, so then when you go underneath the sink and open up that P-trap and look what's in there, it'll allow you to not have a big mess of water come down on you. So wet dry vacuum cleaner is always something good to have. You don't need a large one. You can really just get a small basic one. You only need one that'll only hold a couple gallons. You know, really 4 gallons is probably all you need. And it'll come in handy for situations like that, or if you spill water someplace and it's just a lot of water, great thing to have. I love it for kitchen sink stop-ups. Now another last minute VRB Outstanding hack is under the sink is to get a plastic mat, one with a small lip, rubber mat with a lip all the way around the side. So if you do have any water that comes down or drips down, it's not going onto the laminate or the wood of the cabinet, and it's not rolling around. It stays in that lipped rubber area over there. So that's a good hack to have underneath your sink and protect everything. This is my favorite hack at Home Depot, the Bagster. This thing is $30. It opens up probably a good 10 feet or so. In fact, if you come over here, you can see a picture of everything this thing holds. You basically buy it for $30, and then you call up Waste Management. They'll come to your house, put this in your driveway, and they'll come pick it up. And the great thing is there is a charge for them to pick it up, but it's separate from the $30. This holds a ton. Let me explain how much a ton is. I put it over 1,000 square feet of hardwood flooring, ripped it up from a house in Indiana, and filled this up to the top, and was picked up. Saved the cost of a dumpster. I think with the pickup fee it was about $100, so maybe $130 I was all in. And maybe $150, I'm not sure. But for under $200 to get a dumpster to remove 1,000 square feet of hardwood floor is amazing. Now always check with your city and your town to see if maybe they have some type of free pickup service, but if not, the Bagster, definitely the way to go. One of the things we talked about in our kayaks and paddleboard video was how we set our stands for our kayaks into the sand. And you've got concrete mix here, but this is something called fast setting concrete. And if you're ever setting posts, this is a great thing to use because you dig your hole, you put this in there, and then you pour water on it from a bucket or from a hose. And by the time that water settles in all the way down through the concrete, within 30 seconds, it's hardened up. So it's pretty quick. So you want to make sure everything is level in there, because as soon as you drop that water in, it's firming up. So the fast setting concrete is great for setting posts and for those kayak racks that you're going to put in your short-term rental. Another thing I'm a big fan of are these gorilla ladders, or something like them, where it folds out like a V, but also by going like this, it'll extend upward and double in size. It'll also allow you to press this in and swing this half all the way up. So you have a straight ladder that is twice this height and will go up to 4 times this height when fully extended. So it's like having one of those long ladders, and it's like having a step ladder all in one, but it's in one small place. These are about $200 or so. Definitely well worth having in each of your short-term rentals. Now, we talked about thermostats in one of our episodes on Hard Murata, how we went afterwards and replaced the thermostat in there. There's a couple different types to have here. They have the Honeywell, Ecobee, Google, etc. The Nest used to be well known for allowing you to set upper and lower limits. The Honeywell lets you set upper and lower limits. Here's the big but, and it's a big but, okay? You can bypass those upper and lower limits in a Honeywell pretty easily. If you Google it and go on YouTube, they'll show you the hacks to get and bypass the upper and lower limits. On the Nests by Google, the newer versions do not allow you to set an upper and lower limits. That's only the older models. I believe the Ecobees let you still do the upper and lower limits. I'm just not a big fan of that brand. Coming from an IT background, they've been in IT for a while. They were known as a low-end product. They may have changed, but been in IT 40 years, you kind of know what you go with and what you don't. The one I recommend is by Amazon. It's the Amazon thermostat. It's about $50, and it allows you to set an upper and lower limit. And here's why that is so important. For those of you who don't know, in the South, okay, it can get really hot, 100, 105 degrees, no problem. And people will turn the ACs down maybe to 64 degrees. But when you do that, your AC unit will freeze up on you. And the only way to resolve that is to turn the AC off for 2 to 3 days for that ice to melt and for it to work again. So people think they're cooling off the place by bringing it down to the low 60s, but what they're doing is now removing AC from their usage for the next couple of days, because you will not be able to use it. It'll freeze the pipes. So we set upper and lower limits for that reason. We don't want them to damage the AC unit, and we definitely don't want them to go without AC for 2 or 3 days. So definitely, if you're in the South, if you're in an area where people have the ability to turn it down and cause damage to the units, always get something like the Amazon thermostat, so you can always set your upper and lower limits. What I set mine at is 68 as a low and 78 as a high for heat. That's a pretty safe and generous range. When we're at the house, we keep ours at 73 degrees, and honestly at 73, it's a little chilly in there. For someone to bring it down to 68, it would honestly be like an ice box. So we're not restricting it because we're cheap or we're trying to control our guests, but we don't want them to damage the unit. We don't want them to go without AC for 2 to 3 days. So for those of you who aren't aware of why we do that and why we set limits, that's the reason. Now, if you're in other places where the pipes don't freeze, then you don't have to worry about that. Thanks for watching VRB Outstanding this week. We'll come to you again next week with a whole new episode. Please hit the like and subscribe button below, and we'll see you then.